Good evening, one and all. 'Tis the season, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or the winter solstice. Happy holidays from all of us at Public Radio KCBX and the movie program Take Two. And tonight, it's Cinema Santa night across the aisle for me. My good friend who always has a good stash of mistletoe on him, it's Bob Whiteford.
And across the aisle from me, the undisputed Cinema Santa himself. Of course, I'm talking about my good friend, your good friend, King Vidor Award-winning Jim Dee. Well, Jimmy, here we are back after quite a hiatus. I just want to say thanks to everybody out there who was concerned about me. I had the flu, and it kind of turned into a little something more. And as opposed to coughing for 52 minutes, it was just decided better that I sit it out for a few weeks. But I'm back, better than ever, and here we are, Jimmy.
Excuse me for laughing. It is great to be back, and and I want to say hello to Hank. Happy holidays, our great engineer, projectionist. And every year at this time, heck, the last 5 years or so, we don our Santa hats and talk about movies, not so much as gifts. We will talk about some great gift ideas with movies, the focal point. But, before the show, we were trying to talk about what we really want to talk about the holiday season. Holidays are hectic, and they usually turn into a frantic time. It's more of a time of anguish than celebration and camaraderie. And we're thinking about movies, getting together, watching a film, whether it's renting something, grabbing the significant other or the family, or going out and seeing a movie. But we're going to try to talk about the fun of movies and in the holiday spirit of getting people together, slowing down, perhaps enjoying a good film.
Exactly, Jimmy, and having cinema be part of the kind of the cultural glue that brings us together at this time of year. It's like friends and family, people you love, or you're either going to see them or they're coming to see you, and how in part movies are part of what brings us together. A nice night out on the town, you go have a nice meal together, everyone has a good time, then you go see a film that you're all interested in, and then afterwards you go out, maybe have a couple of cocktails, talk of the old days,
or the movie you just
saw.
The
movie, if it's any good. But it seems to me that that's a big part of the experience. Just to see familiar faces that you've missed. And what better way than with a film and socializing that way? Yeah, it can be a profoundly painful time, as we know, and but it can also be a very special time as well. And film is right in the middle of the good times.
So tonight, Bob and I have some, we're going to actually look back at 2007, some interesting DVD releases. We might also get on some of the current films in theaters that you may catch at this holiday time. We have a list of some very interesting DVD releases, as well as some clips of some films that you can enjoy, perhaps give as a gift. We are going to start with the quintessential film that you should see, or, well, let's just say in my family, the perennial favorite is to watch Scrooge, based on A Christmas Carol. This is the one version that, out of about 5 or so, that we like the best, and I think you and I agree, Bob, one of our all-time favorites from 1951, I believe. It's called Scrooge, and in the role of Ebenezer Scrooge is Alistair Sim, and also surrounded by a cavalcade of great British actors.
Well, Jimmy, it's funny. It's like every year we talk about this film, and it just seems like Alistair Sim came out of the womb, the embodiment of Charles Dickens' Scrooge.
I believe you're right. That's a great way of putting it.
And it's funny. I think that's the edge he has over other better-known actors such as Albert Finney, who played Scrooge in the 1970 version, and George C. Scott from the 1984 version. I mean, they're obviously great actors, better known for so many spectacular roles, probably a much more versatile and rich career. But when you close your eyes and you think Ebenezer Scrooge, it's coming up Alastair Sim every time.
Well, prior to Alastair Sim, Reginald Owen portrayed it in an earlier version, and this is a very good one. But I think it's Alastair Sim is truly scary. I mean, he's not a good person at the beginning of the film, and then of course after the visit of the three ghosts of Christmas, he kind of goes off his nut. He's really kind of maniacal and crazy, but it's this incredible realization of what he used to be and what he's become. And also, one of the ghosts of Christmas to come, he sees his own death, and really a very painful and solitary death. And boy, what a transformation. But the transformation is almost, let's call it over the top, but this is great over the top.
We wouldn't want it any other way, Jimmy. And as you mentioned earlier when we were talking, it's really nice to see a very young Patrick Macnee. This is probably one of the first films he was ever in of Avengers fame. And it was kind of interesting. This film, I think, came out around 1951, and Patrick Macnee, it seems throughout the 50s, he kept popping up in certain films. I can remember him popping up in an episode of 2 of Boris Karloff's aborted TV show called The Veil, which was kind of a forerunner to Thriller, which came out in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
He also popped up, he was also in Boris Karloff's Corridors of Blood for like 5 minutes. But it's like, it was just interesting to see that even though he had hit the jackpot with the Avengers, which actually started in the early 60s, by 65, 66, 67, guy had been working a long time, and it's very nice to see him in this.
Here is a clip from the 1951 version of Scrooge, and in that role, the great Alastair Sim.
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are. I wish I could say they were not.
And the trade mill and the poor law, they're still in full vigor, I presume?
Both very busy, sir.
Oh, from what you said at first, I was afraid that something had happened to stop them in their useful course. I'm very glad to hear it.
I don't think you quite understand us, sir. A few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth.
Why?
Because it is at Christmas time that want is most keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What can I put you down for?
Oh, nothing.
You wish to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, sir, that is my answer. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. Those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and some would rather die.
If they would rather die, they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population. Besides, it's not my business.
Isn't it, sir?
No. It is enough for a man to understand his own business without interfering with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
From the 1951 Scrooge, that is Alastair Sim as Ebenezer Scrooge. And also, Bob, this film runs a fleeting 70 or 80 minutes. It goes by very quickly. And, just watching it each year, you just go, it's great and fresh each and every time. And I think it's Alastair Sim who really pulls it off with an incredible performance.
Absolutely, Jimmy. It's interesting because it's obviously... It's a Wonderful Life derivative of Dickens's Christmas Carol. Incidentally, folks, It's a Wonderful Life for years was in public domain. Now, Paramount Pictures has obtained the rights to it. I don't know because I don't have cable television, but I suspect, Jimmy, that we're probably not going to see as much of it We're not going to be saturated with it.
Oh,
I might be wrong.
I think it's already shown at least once. It usually shows up on NBC, but I agree with you. When it was in public domain, you could see it on every channel. And maybe we should explain to our listeners. I mean, basically the rights dissolve, and you can get a hold of this film, and television stations don't have to pay any rights, and so they play it. And I think it's also, you touched on Wonderful Life. It was a box office flop when it
Complete flop.
And really it became more of a Christmas perennial, about 20, 25 years ago, maybe a little bit more. But, it's interesting how many years it went in somewhat in obscurity.
And, Jimmy, I think the film falling into public domain had a lot to do with it being reborn, if you will, as a Christmas classic.
Isn't that funny?
It is weird. And incidentally, it's also the first film I think Jimmy Stewart did after World War II, because he was a bomber pilot during World War II. I think he eventually became a major general. And oddly enough, in World War II, he was a B-17 pilot, a group leader. He flew on a lot of missions. He'd seen a lot of people die, and at the end of his tour, when he got out of the Army Air Force in 1945-46, he didn't want to make movies. He just kind of hung out. I mean, it's hard to believe that such a likable, affable guy, but he was pretty... I think the war had really kind of done something to him. You'd noted, Jimmy, that Hitchcock tapped into it later on, but that was his first film that he did. Frank Capra, of all people, kind of got him out of his funk and got him into this, which was kind of interesting. A side story.
Well, just briefly, I think some of the great moments of It's a Wonderful Life are its more grim elements. I mean,
absolutely. In its darker moments, it's really, really powerful.
Well, we're going to not go dark. We're going to tell you about another version of A Christmas Carol. And this is probably a first for us talking about, we've talked about some television movies, but, we talked about Scrooge as portrayed by Reginald Owen, Alistair Sim, Albert Finney, George C. Scott, even Bill Murray in Scrooged. But a television version of A Christmas Carol with an interesting female twist is A Diva's Christmas Carol, with a great performance by Vanessa Williams. And, hey, she sings fabulously, but boy, she can be a Scrooge. The nice twist is her name is Ebony instead of Ebenezer. Her manager is Bob Cratchit, goes by Cratch. And here's a scene from A Diva's Christmas Carol.
These people have no idea how to treat a superstar.
You're the one who wanted to do a Christmas video.
To move the single. Christmas is a marketing machine we cannot ignore.
I know that, but when you're squeezing a video shoot in the middle of a European tour, it gets a little bit...
Ouch! Watch it. For what we're paying them, they can accommodate a few simple requests. Great, now what?
It's me, Ernie. Can I come in? Cratch?
Ernie, paychecks were late again this week.
Yeah, we had to shuffle a couple of things around. We're short again, Ebony.
How can that be?
I'll look into it. You know how money is. 1 minute it's there, the next minute...
Wait,
poof.
I've got an idea. We'll have a Christmas concert.
Whoa. We'll have what? When? Where?
Cute. They're good. You should take them on the road. Whitney's got her own people, so
The concert.
Christmas Day, New York City.
And since when do you give a damn about Christmas?
A concert would promote the hell out of the album. Get a lot of good press.
So, you're talking about like a charity concert?
Just think of the write-off.
A charity concert. Yeah, but exclusive, intimate setting. Charge a fortune for the tickets. Tourists will pay anything for a little holiday spirit.
Okay, and who would it benefit?
So, how's the family there, Bob?
My godson, little Tom?
Tim.
Whatever.
He's fine. About the concert, you can't have it on Christmas Day.
Oh?
We're off Christmas Day. Your people want to go home and see their families.
They've got the next day off.
You can't do this.
Well, I just did.
That is Vanessa Williams in the TV film A Diva's Christmas Carol. Now, Bob, I'm not even sure this is available on video or anything, but if it does pop on TV, it's a real nice twist on A Christmas Carol.
Well, let's put it this way. Vanessa Williams is a lot more easier on the eyes than Alastair Sim.
You're absolutely right. But she is villainous in this version. Okay, Bob, we're going to move on to a release of a very special bunch of animated cartoons that I'd actually been waiting for that I think make a great Christmas gift. But I mean, it's also looking back at 2007 where we're talking about the spinach chomping sailor, Popeye the Sailor, and we're talking about the original Popeye the Sailor. And much to the credit of Warner Brothers, they released the theatrical cartoons. These are the black and whites from the creators, Max and Dave Fleischer. And there are so many incarnations of Popeye over the years. There are the color versions that came out in the 40s, right after these were happening. He's been resurrected over and over and over, and I think in one of the specials in this 4 CD or DVD set is even a computer animated Popeye is in existence. Folks, when you go back to these original cartoons that are incredibly politically incorrect, I mean, there's even a disclaimer at the beginning, but it's a 4 CD set. It's just Popeye, I believe, from 1932 to about 1938. There's about 60 cartoons, and these are the originals with Popeye, Olive Oyl, Bluto,
and Wimpy.
And the animation is incredible. They look fabulous on the DVD. A lot of times they were animating on glass in front of actual models that they built. There's also a 3D feel in many of these cartoons. And Bob, you know, you've often said DVDs that just have, you know, maybe a feature on them, and, you know, there's so much more space seemingly available on DVDs. Now, these Popeye cartoons and these originals that have been resurrected, they've got all these cartoons in the order that they were released in theaters. Incredible specials. Then they pull out of the Fleischer archives the Out of the Inkwell series and have a number of those with Coco the Clown. Every one of these DVDs is just packed with great Fleischer animation and really released for the first time just this past year.
You know, Jimmy, quite frankly, over the years we've talked about the DVD format a lot, and I'm just so many times bitterly disappointed with what the studios do with it. Namely, they don't utilize the format to its best capacity. Here's a case where finally somebody really did it right. This set is so deep. These cartoons look absolutely beautiful. Artistically speaking, I mean, the colors on some of the color features, in fact, they unearthed some color features there that I had never seen. And Jim and I sat down and watched him one day at his house, and oh boy, it was like taking a walk down memory lane. Warner Brothers is to be commended for an absolutely first-rate issue here. This is, if you're a big fan of the old cartoons, and I know a lot of you out there are, you may not want to cop to it, but we all grew up with them. Hey, they look great and definitely worth a look. If you you're shopping for that special somebody out there, and if you know, more than likely he was a Popeye fan, might be a nice stocking stuffer.
Just a couple of quick notes before we whet your appetite with a clip from a great Popeye cartoon. First of all, you can find Popeye cartoons anywhere in the bargain bins, and look for this one. It has a yellow cover. It says Popeye the Sailor. I believe it's 1932 to 1938. It's a 4 CD set. Dare I say, brush aside those other ones because they're usually taken from 16 millimeter films. They don't look that great. So find this one. The second thing I just want to mention too is in one of the documentaries about the phenomenon of Popeye. Back in the 30s, when these cartoons were on before the films, they were even more popular than the movies. People would go to the theater to see the new Popeye cartoon. I mean, along with Betty Boop, another Fleischer creation, people went to see the cartoon, even over the feature. They were that popular.
You know, Jimmy, I think I want to echo a sentiment you just mentioned. Yes, folks, you can go out, you can find Popeye stuff all over the place. You can find it in a thrift store. You can find it at the dollar store. But you know what? As Jim said, this is their inferior versions taken from 16mm prints that are not remastered. Also, they're newer versions that have very inferior animation. These ones that we're talking about here, the Fleischer brothers from the 30s, this is the real McCoy, and they look absolutely fantastic. And for what you're getting for the dollar, it's actually reasonably priced.
Here's one of Bob's and my favorite Popeye cartoons. One of our favorites, Bob. And, you know, I think one of the signatures of the great Popeye cartoons is they're black and white. You're on the deck of the ship, and the little doors open up with the title of that cartoon. What's also great is whenever you hear the music, you know, they're playing it fresh every time. You know, they've got to play the opening theme. You're probably watching it on a screen, and then they go into the song where Olive sings in that case. I mean, when you think about them being rather crudely made, but still they are incredible.
They're very rich. I mean, they write original songs for them, and always the John Philip Sousa comes up. You know, when Popeye has got his spinach and he's about to really give Bluto a severe thumping. I mean, my chest was still puffing up. You know, at 49 like it was when I was 9. You know, I love that. It just makes you feel so good inside, Jimmy.
Well, the thing about these two, Bob, is they used to run them on television, you know, I think on Channel 5, as I recall from Los Angeles, at least where we're from, and back in New York when I was
Channel 11.
Channel 11, KPIX, I think it was. But, you know, these black and whites don't make it on TV hardly at all anymore, so if at all. So This is the place you can get them, but a great packaging of these vintage and classic cartoons from the Fleischer brothers.
A-list job. Well done.
It's Take Two, the movie program on public radio, KCBX and KCBX HD1 San Luis Obispo, KSBX Santa Barbara. We're streaming across the world at kcbx.org. Bob and I are the Cinema Santas tonight. We'll be back in just a moment. Funds for this program are provided in part by American Flatbread All-Natural Pizzas, full of life. The bakers at American Flatbread invite you to their restaurant every Friday and Saturday evening in Los Alamos. More information at www.foodremembers.com.
Funds for this program are also provided by Chaucer's Bookstore in Santa Barbara, offering books for readers of any age in a multitude of subjects and interests. Their number is 682-6787.
Happy holidays from all of us at Take Two. That's all three of us. My name is Jim Dee. I'm here with Bob Whiteford. It's Hank, our projectionist and engineer. We're talking about the holidays and some interesting movies released during the past year, some ideas for some gifts, and the overriding idea of getting together, slow things down for the holidays, enjoy a movie with family and friends. Now, Bob, before we play some more clips of a couple of, our double feature with the Fab Four we should talk about, but we just wanted to throw out a few ideas. I think we mention this each and every year. The ultimate, I would say the most complete single volume of movie listings is the yearly Leonard Maltin movie guide. I believe the 2008 one is out by now. It gets thicker and thicker each and every year. There's also a larger version, usually the paperback, you got to pull out your glasses or your magnifying glass since there are so many movies listed. But the larger version, easy to read, but truly I think the Leonard Maltin movie guide is the most comprehensive for all movies. The other major book that we usually mention each and every year is simply entitled The Film Encyclopedia by Ephraim Katz, that last name K-A-T-Z. This is an encyclopedia that's really full and rich, lots of stars, directors, but also technical terms about cinema. So two books that are always on the list and seem to be updated and every year, the Leonard Maltin book every year, but the Film Encyclopedia every few years. The Leonard Maltin Movie Guide and the Film Encyclopedia by Ephraim Katz.
And I think it's safe to say that there's some DVDs out there you might want to consider as well. And I mention these because these have been either out of print or never released. And I'll kick it off with our good friends from Criterion, scoring big again with Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole. You may have heard us mention this. Classic film noir from 1951, a film that did not do well up on its release, but is now justifiably been reissued, and it seems like it's a film, Jim, that fits in much better today with its cynical message of media and spectacle in other people's misery. I think Wilder was way ahead of the curve with this film. It features the great actor Kirk Douglas, and he's never been better, and he's always been great. And this might be arguably his greatest film in terms of a modern audience. I think they would really like this. Younger folks out there, don't be afraid of this film. You'll be amazed at how contemporary it is.
I should ask you, Bob, when this came out on DVD, there was quite a bit of fanfare. Now, was this kind of a lost film? Did it ever come out on video at all?
No, never came out on video. In fact, Paramount Pictures, this film came out originally as Ace in the Hole. It didn't do well. They reissued it the next year as The Big Carnival. It still didn't do well. And then it just disappeared, occasionally showing up on late-night television back when they used to play old movies on late-night television instead of junky infomercials. And that's where a lot of people, myself included, got our first exposure to this film. Seeing it without commercials, complete, and beautifully remastered in the Criterion style, This is a magnificent film, and it's odd because Billy Wilder is one of our great filmmakers, and this was the one film for half a century that was inaccessible.
Wow.
It might pop up at a theater like a beat-up 16-millimeter print a la Freaks, and that was it. You never really got to see it, but it's back and better than ever.
Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole, a treasure, and Billy Wilder's name directing anything. I'm looking forward. I haven't seen this, Bob. I really want to see it.
Jim, trust me on this one. It'll get you, man. It'll grab you, and it'll blow your mind. This is a great film.
And another Criterion collection, I believe. It's Monty Hellman's Two-Lane Blacktop has just been re-released, and what could be the quintessential or the ultimate road picture. And apparently
Absolutely.
Special Edition has interviews with James Taylor, who's in the film, and who can go wrong with Mr. Oates, correct?
You got it. And let's face it, it also has the entire screenplay. It's got a book screenplay. You know that Criterion A is going to have it remastered beautifully. This film actually did come out on DVD briefly about 9 years ago. It was released by a company called Anchor Bay, which I will say the quality was first rate. Letterboxed. It was a beautiful print. It didn't really have much in terms of extras, but just the fact that the film was there in its entirety was mind-blowing enough. I was one of the few people who was lucky enough to get one of those. It's been out of print for since about 1999, 2000 maybe. And up until now, you could probably find a copy on the internets for about $100 or more. I mean, it was going for a lot of money. Now, for $40, you get a beautifully restored widescreen version of the film. It's complete with documentaries. Monty Hellman, one of the more intriguing filmmakers out there, folks. And I think Jim and I both highly recommend seeing this film. It's wonderful. It's got James Taylor, Dennis Wilson, the late Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. They're great in this. It also features Warren Oates, one of our favorite people,
Definitely.
as GTO, Harry Dean Stanton in a sterling part. This is, like you say, Jimmy, this is the great B-movie road picture. It's cult with a capital C, classic with a capital K. It's great.
We're talking about Monty Hellman's Two-Lane Blacktop. 3 more quick DVDs, and then we'll get back into a couple of music films that are always good any time of year in the holiday season. But, boy, we're talking about a few different versions of a classic sci-fi film, Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. When I say a few different versions, even the DVD comes out in a 1 or 2 or a 5-disc set. And, there's about 3 or 4 different versions of this film. Just recently, Ridley Scott coming out with the final cut, maybe coalescing all of those elements that have popped in some of these different versions. But, folks, I'm sure the DVD looks great, but you get that big box set. I think it actually comes like in a suitcase or something.
It does. It's insane. And the thing is, Jimmy, I want to dedicate this to everyone out there who for the last 10, 15 years have been clamoring to see the original version of Blade Runner. The one with the narration by Harrison Ford. I mean, I think for a long period of time, there was the reissued director's cut, which we've all seen. Video stores have them to rent, personal collections, you have them as well, but nobody had the original theatrical Warner Brothers cut. Now's your chance. You'll have it. If you buy this set, it'll be there, along with the Ridley Scott version, which I would think was reissued in the early 90s, and along with this new final cut, and it's loaded with 2 discs of all kinds of extras. So all, and I mean all, your Blade Runner needs will be met once and for all. There won't be need for anything else after this one.
Until they reissue it on Blue Disc or something next
Exactly.
year. Okay. And then a couple of TV shows resurrected on DVD. I think both of these are through Time Life, but, both Bob and I get a big kick out of the reissue of Get Smart.
Yay.
And more recently, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And boy, I'd love to watch these Man from U.N.C.L.E. episodes. I grew up with Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin.
And Mr. Waverly.
And
Leo G. Carroll, baby.
U.N.C.L.E., the United Network Command for Law and Enforcement. My
Well,
God, it's imprinted.
Oh, and it had a great theme.
Yep.
And what I dug about Man from U.N.C.L.E. was, after a while, it kind of fell into that weird 60s thing where they kind of played it for laughs.
Yes.
And I think that was more directed at Dad, who was forced having to watch this show, like Batman and everything. All the kids were going crazy for it, like you and I, but it really was, a lot of the jokes were playing for our folks who were stuck having to watch this thing. And just as a note, as Jim mentioned, Time Life is releasing these television show classics, remastered, complete collections. Right now, that's the only way you can get them. I think they will be available through more traditional retail outlets or distributors sometime later in 2008. So right now, Time Life has the exclusive. So if you want to go for it, you literally can have every episode of Get Smart. And that's a further proof of Mel Brooks's and Buck Henry's genius. And I've got two words for you: Dick Gautier. And I'll leave it at that.
So if you want some great TV memories, both Get Smart and Man from U.N.C.L.E. television shows are available in their entirety, the entire seasons. Also, the DVD version of Blade Runner, Monty Hellman's Two-Lane Blacktop, and Ace in the Hole. Now we're going to move on to a couple of music movies, one of which was just recently beautifully remastered and brought out once again after a long time of being out of print. But let's go back to the first film featuring the Fab Four. Why don't you play number 5, Hank?
Would you look at him? Sitting there with his hooter scraping away at that boog.
Well, what's the matter with that?
Have you no natural resources of your own? Have they even robbed you of that?
Well, you can learn from books.
You can you? Pah, sheep's heads. You could learn more by getting out there and living.
Out where?
Any old where. But not her, little Richard. Oh, no. When you're not pumping them pagan skins, you're tormenting your eyes with that rubbish.
Books are good.
Parading's better.
Parading?
Parading the streets. Trailing your coat. Bowling along. Living.
Well, I am living.
You? Living? When was the last time you gave a girl a pink-edged daisy? When did you last embarrass a Sheila with your cool appraise and stare?
Bit old for that sort of chat, aren't you?
Well, at least I've got a backlog of memories. All you've got is that book.
Oh, stop picking on me as bad as the rest of them.
Ah, so you are a man after all.
What's that mean?
Do you think I haven't noticed? Do you think I wasn't aware of the drift? And you poor unfortunate scruff. They've driven you into books with their cruel, unnatural treatment, exploiting your good nature.
I don't know.
Ah, sure, that lot's never happy unless they're jeering you. And where'd they be without the steady support of your drumbeat? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, that's right.
And what's it all come to in the end?
Yeah, what's in it for me?
A book.
Yeah, a bloomin' book.
When you could be out there betraying a rich American widow or sipping palm wine and Tahiti before you're too old like me.
Yeah, funny really. Because I never thought, but being middle-aged and old takes up most of your time, doesn't it?
You're only right. Where you going?
I'm going parading before it's too late.
It's Wilfrid Bramble and Ringo Starr from the quintessential musical, I would almost call it, A Hard Day's Night, which was re-released, I want to say 3-4 years ago, maybe even more. Beautiful package. Great to see those crisp black and white images of the Beatles' first film directed by Richard Lester. Well, what happened about a month or two ago is finally, after bootlegs from Japan, or just perhaps a video version of the second Beatles film, Help, also directed by Richard Lester, was re-released gorgeously. And great cinematography. And, Bob, they talk about, the best Beatle movie being A Hard Day's Night and Help being kind of goofy and kind of funny. But revisiting Help, it is absolutely hilarious. I think it's the nonstop, almost Monty Python-esque jokes that are happening. And if you look at it too closely, there's almost racist overtones with this, crazy religion that's after Ringo's ring that he can't get off of his finger. But, watching bits of this today, I was just cracking up. It was just like relentless one-liners, relentless comedy, whether it's almost slapstick. It's really fun. And the music holds up obviously well.
Well, Jimmy, here's another puzzle that I could never understand in the film. Film lovers out there, we're film lovers too. This film has been out of print for about 15 plus years.
Wow.
In fact, the only way I could watch this, I found a laser disc. Hoo-hoo. That's the only way I could see this movie. And I found this to be I was just amazed that it had taken so long for this film to resurrect itself. That was the bad part. The good part was that because it had been so long, it's almost like seeing it for the first time again. And you're right, Jimmy. It's a lot of fun. It's great to see the boys again in brilliant Technicolor, and it's an odd, madcap, almost psychedelic, early psychedelic kind of film. It's kind of like the Marx Brothers with a little bit of marijuana and a little bit of 60s excess thrown in. It fits very well with the original Casino Royale or What's New Pussycat is kind of like a really out there kind of 60s excess comedy. All it's missing is Peter Sellers. And I really enjoyed this immensely, Jimmy. It's a lot of fun.
Here's a scene from Help, which, like Bob said, you can see in a gorgeous remastered version. This is trying to get Ringo's ring off because a renegade religious group is after him to get the ring. And they go into a jewelry store in London. This is the Beatles in Help.
We have all sorts of little problems like this, sir. Some of them matrimonial. This ring is not stone.
You've got to get it off. I've only got 3 hours to live.
Therefore, it must be metal. This is not any metal within my sphere of experience.
Jeweler, you're not getting anywhere, are you, jeweler?
Early days yet, sir. Therefore, it must be an alloy.
There's a certain amount of hurry-up involved here, jeweler, due to the fact that my life's in danger.
310.
The wheel.
Not the wheel.
Even the royal house of Hanover had the wheel, sir. I've never seen anything like it.
Jeweler, you failed.
I suggest you see a specialist.
What kind of specialist has broken all your tools?
The fire brigade once got my head out of some railings.
Did you want them to?
No. I used to leave it there when I wasn't using it for school. You can see a lot of the world from railings.
That's a scene from Help, which you can see at a beautiful remastered DVD. I love that sort of anarchy that's still going on. This is, like you said, slapstick, maybe the Marx Brothers merging into Monty Python or something. But, here's this prim and proper jeweler, and he's referred to as, jeweler, come on, you failed.
Not the wheel. I mean, that was my favorite scene. That's always been my favorite scene from the film. And, folks, this movie is a lot of fun. It's worth going back and exploring Help again. You'll be glad you did.
And it's okay for the entire family around the holiday season. Hey, a double bill for the evening, Hard Day's Night, and Help. You can't go wrong. Well, actually, we're going to remain in Britain because, one of our previous Take Two programs was unavailable films, and we talked about Lindsay Anderson's If, far more provocative than what we're talking about, the Beatles movies. If did come out this past year. It is available on DVD. It was
thanks to Criterion again.
Thanks to Criterion. That is fabulous. And the sequel to If is another Lindsay Anderson film with Malcolm McDowell playing the role of Travis. And Oh Lucky Man finally seeing the light of day. And here's another one, Bob, that, If was unavailable on DVD until this year, and it was made, I believe, in 1967, 68. Oh Lucky Man out in 1973, and only available on video, VHS, until, a couple of months ago.
Yeah, maybe like 6 weeks ago. And the video release, while at its time was fine, it still had been out of print for a long time. And what I find interesting about both these films, Jimmy, is it's kind of like what I was touching upon earlier about Ace in the Hole. These are older films that I think have more of a current day sensibility. If deals with, on the basic level, violence in schools, the students going crazy. But I mean, the environment is totally different from, say, an American school. It's not a Columbine thing.
No.
But but it is kind of has contemporary issues going on with it. Oh Lucky Man is definitely out there with some poor guy blundering into government conspiracies, corporate conspiracies. All he is a door-to-door salesman being followed around by Alan Price and his piano.
And a very young Helen Mirren in this film.
This film is absolutely... I remember the first time I saw this film, Jim, it just blew my mind because it's like 3 hours long
and engaging and amazing, and it goes through so many twists and turns. And even though we have the same character as in If, of course, If has a very surreal element, as does Oh Lucky Man. But seeing the two together, they're so utterly unrelated, but yet they kind of, I don't know how they fit together, but they do.
They do. And that's the odd thing about it. There's this weird correlation between both films. And the focal point, of course, is Malcolm McDowell. And I would put Oh Lucky Man and If right up there with Clockwork Orange as the best things he's ever done. And I think it's so great that these films are out there now because people can really appreciate the talent of Malcolm McDowell. I mean, this guy was a big star, is still a big star, I might add. But back in those days, he was a cultural icon. Now you know why.
I think, Hank, let's go to Oh Lucky Man number 10. I mean, the one integral part of Oh Lucky Man is the music. Not only is it great by Alan Price, former member of Eric Burdon and the Animals, but the group itself is an integral part of the movie, which I think is the genius of this film.
This is what's crazy about it, Jimmy. They keep popping up everywhere, and it's brilliant how they do it. It's fantastic.
Here is the song, Oh Lucky Man.
If you have a friend on whom you think you can rely, you are a lucky man. If you found the reason to live on and not to die, you are a lucky man. Preachers and poets and scholars don't know it. Temples and statues and steeples won't show it. If you've got the secret, just try not to blow it. Stay a lucky man. A lucky man. If you found the meaning of the truth in this whole world, you are a lucky man. If knowledge hangs around your neck like pearls instead of chains, you are a lucky man. Takers and fakers and talkers won't tell you. Teachers and preachers will just buy and sell you. When no one can tempt you with heaven or hell, you be a lucky man. You want if you are what you are, and that's a lucky man. Oh yeah, a lucky man. And that's a lucky man. A lucky man.
Alan Price singing the title track, the title tune for the film Oh Lucky Man, that Bob and I are both very grateful that it's released on DVD after all these years. Be sure to see it after you've watched If. And, Bob, there's a third part of this trilogy, but unfortunately I have seen Britannia Hospital. It's the third one. Malcolm McDowell having a small role in that film. But I just remembered that one just didn't work for me. Maybe I need to revisit it. So I think you're doing just fine with the DVD releases just this past year of both If and Oh Lucky Man.
Absolutely, Jimmy. And I agree with you on Britannia Hospital. For whatever reason, it just didn't quite make it happen. Maybe not enough Malcolm McDowell. Too bad.
Well, shall we recap? We do highly recommend the Alistair Sim version of Scrooge or Christmas Carol. Check out the re-release of those great vintage Fleischer Brother Popeye cartoons. Great family fare. Get Hard Day's Night and Help, just recently released. That's always fun. The Leonard Motton movie guide, the ultimate movie guide. Great stocking stuffer, along with perhaps the film encyclopedia from Ephraim Katz. We are very happy that If and Oh Lucky Man came out on DVD this last year. Blade Runner, for the ultimate Blade Runner collectors, is going to be released. Two-Lane Blacktop from Monty Hellman on the Criterion collection, given the great treatment. Ace in the Hole as well from Billy Wilder. And if you like those old TV shows, boy, our favorites, Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Get Smart. There we have it.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy, I think next week is Christmas Eve, and then the following Monday is New Year's Eve, so we won't be around till 2008. So I think I'd just like to take a moment to say all the best to all our friends out there and all our fellow cinephiles, and thanks for making 2007 a really great year. We're going to be back in 2008, and it's going to be better than ever.
Including our Part 2 tribute to Sidney Lumet.
Finally.
And we'll get to that, but I want to thank all of our listeners, and get together, enjoy a movie. Try to lower that stress level of the holidays. Really enjoy the camaraderie of whoever you like to hang out with, family or friends. Enjoy a good movie. A lot of good ones in the theaters, but this year the Oscar contenders should be rolling out. Our thanks to Hank, our fantastic projectionist. We'll see you in 2008.
Scrooge was better than his word. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city ever knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. And to Tiny Tim, who lived and got well again, he became a second father.
Uncle Scrooge!
And it was always said that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.